Maya Chen was 7 years old when the cargo ship crashed into the wheat fields outside Lincoln, Nebraska. She was 8 when the government men came and took her parents away, leaving her alone in the world. They said her mother and father had been helping the aliens, that they were traitors to humanity. Maya knew this was not true, but no one asked a small girl what she thought about anything. The state put her in a group home on the edge of the city. The building was old and cold, and the other children did not like her. They called her names and pushed her around. Maya learned to stay quiet and keep to herself. She spent her days in the corner of the small library, reading books that no one else wanted to touch. The aliens had arrived 3 years before Maya was born. They came in great silver ships that blocked out the sun. They called themselves the Korathi, and they spoke in sounds that hurt human ears. For 20 years, humans and Korathi had tried to understand each other. Sometimes they managed to trade. Sometimes they fought. Millions had died on both sides before an uneasy peace was reached. But the peace was fragile. The Korathi had technology that humans could barely understand. They traveled between stars like humans traveled between cities. They built machines that could change the weather and weapons that could level mountains. Humanity was scared, and scared people did terrible things. Maya's parents had been linguists. They had worked on the first attempts to decode the Korathi language. They had made some progress before they disappeared. Maya kept one thing from them, hidden under her mattress at the group home. It was a notebook filled with strange symbols and her mother's neat handwriting. Every night after the lights went out, Maya would pull out the notebook and study it by the light of the moon. She did not understand most of what she saw, but something about the symbols called to her. They were beautiful in a way she could not explain. They curved and twisted like living things, like vines growing across a wall. When Maya was 10, a teacher at her school noticed something unusual. Maya had finished all her work in minutes and was drawing in her notebook. But she was not drawing pictures of houses or flowers like the other children. She was drawing Korathi symbols, row after row of them, perfectly formed. The teacher did not know what to do. She showed the notebook to the principal, who showed it to someone else, who showed it to someone in the government. Within a week, men in dark suits came to the group home. They asked Maya many questions about where she had learned to draw these things. Maya was scared, but she told the truth. She showed them her mother's notebook. The men took the notebook. Maya cried for 3 days. It was the only thing she had left of her parents, but then something unexpected happened. Instead of forgetting about her, the men came back. They brought new notebooks, filled with more Korathi writing. They asked her to look at them and tell them what she saw. Maya did not know why they wanted her help. She was just a child. But she looked at the symbols anyway because looking at them made her feel close to her mother and father. And as she looked, something strange began to happen. The symbols started to make sense. It was not like learning to read English. It was more like remembering something she had always known but had forgotten. The curves and lines were not just pretty shapes. They were ideas, feelings, stories. Each symbol contained many meanings at once, and the meaning changed depending on which symbols were next to it. The men in suits did not believe her at first. They thought she was making things up. But when she translated a simple message and it matched what the Korathi had been trying to tell them for months, their faces went pale. They made phone calls. More people came. Soon Maya was moved from the group home to a facility far from the city. The facility was clean and quiet. Maya had her own room with a soft bed and many books. Scientists worked there day and night, trying to understand the Korathi, but they had made little progress in 20 years. The alien language was too different from human speech. It did not follow the rules that human languages followed. Dr. James Roberts was the head of the language team. He was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole career trying to crack the Korathi code. He was kind to Maya, but she could see the doubt in his face. How could a child do what hundreds of experts had failed to do? Maya did not try to convince him. She just worked. Every day they brought her new texts to study. Some were short messages, some were long documents, some were recordings of Korathi speech, which hurt her ears at first but became easier to bear over time. She began to see patterns that the adults could not see. The Korathi did not think in lines like humans did. They thought in circles, in spirals, in webs. Their writing was not meant to be read from left to right or top to bottom. It was meant to be seen all at once, like a painting. Maya tried to explain this to Dr. Roberts, but he did not understand, so she found new ways to show him. She drew pictures. She built models out of paper and string. Slowly, he began to see what she was seeing, and when he saw it, his tired eyes filled with tears. After 6 months at the facility, Maya made her first real breakthrough. She translated a Korathi poem. It was short, only a few lines, but it was beautiful. It spoke of longing and hope, of traveling far from home and dreaming of return. It was so human in its feeling that everyone who read it was moved. The world learned about the poem. For the first time, people began to see the Korathi as something other than monsters or invaders. They were beings who felt love and loss, just like humans. It was a small thing, but small things can change everything. Maya was 11 years old when she became the most important person in the world. The years that followed were busy and strange. Maya grew up in the facility, surrounded by scientists and soldiers. She had tutors who taught her math and history and science, but most of her time was spent with the Korathi texts. By the time she was 14, Maya could read Korathi writing almost as easily as she could read English. She had developed a system for teaching others, though it took years for even the smartest adults to learn what she had grasped in months. Dr. Roberts said she had a gift that could not be explained. Maya did not know if it was a gift or a curse. The Korathi had noticed Maya's work. They sent messages asking about the young human who understood their words. They wanted to meet her. The government was not sure this was a good idea. Maya was too valuable to risk. But the Korathi were insistent, and finally a meeting was arranged. Maya had never seen a Korathi in person before. They did not look like humans. Their bodies were tall and thin, covered in scales that changed color with their mood. They had 4 arms and no nose, breathing through slits in their neck. Their eyes were large and dark, like pools of ink. The first Korathi Maya met was named something that translated roughly to Singing River. He was a scholar, like her parents had been. He had spent his life trying to understand human language, just as she had spent hers trying to understand his. When they met, there was a moment of silence. Then Singing River did something no human had ever seen a Korathi do. He bowed. Maya bowed back. It was the beginning of a friendship that would change both their species. Through Singing River, Maya learned things about the Korathi that no human had known before. They had come to Earth not as conquerors but as refugees. Their home world had been destroyed by a war with another alien race, the Vesh. The Korathi had wandered the stars for generations, looking for a new home. Earth was the first planet they had found where they could survive. This information shocked the human governments. For years, they had seen the Korathi as a threat. They had built weapons and armies to fight them, but the Korathi had never wanted to fight. They had only wanted a place to live. Maya worked to spread this understanding. She translated speeches and documents. She helped human leaders talk to Korathi leaders. Slowly, the fear began to fade. Trade increased. Humans learned Korathi technology. Korathi learned human art and music. It was not perfect, but it was progress. Maya was 17 when the first warning came. Singing River brought her a message from the Korathi military. Their scouts had detected Vesh ships at the edge of the solar system. The enemy that had destroyed their home world had found them again. The Vesh were not like the Korathi. They were not refugees looking for peace. They were hunters, conquerors, destroyers. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They simply took what they wanted and killed anyone who stood in their way. The human governments did not believe Maya at first. They thought it was a Korathi trick to make humanity dependent on them, but Maya had learned to read the Korathi well. She knew when they were scared, and right now they were terrified. Maya went before the United Nations. She was just a teenager standing in front of the most powerful people in the world, but she spoke clearly and simply, telling them what she had learned. The Vesh were coming. They would reach Earth in less than a year. If humans and Korathi did not work together, they would both die. Some believed her, others did not. Arguments broke out. Countries blamed each other. Old enemies became friends and old friends became enemies. The world tore itself apart with fear and anger while the Vesh ships drew closer. Maya did not give up. She worked day and night, translating messages, explaining ideas, building bridges between species. She was exhausted all the time. She barely slept or ate. Dr. Roberts worried about her health, but Maya pushed on. Too many lives depended on her. Finally, after months of argument, an agreement was reached. Humans and Korathi would fight together. They would share their technology and their soldiers. They would stand as one against the coming darkness. But there was a problem. The human and Korathi militaries could not communicate. Their equipment did not work together. Their tactics were completely different. They needed someone who understood both species, someone who could make them work as a single force. Everyone looked at Maya. She was 18 years old, an orphan from Nebraska who had never held a weapon in her life. And now the fate of two species rested on her shoulders. Maya wanted to run. She wanted to hide. She wanted to go back to being a little girl reading books in a cold group home. But she thought of her parents, of the work they had given their lives for. She thought of Singing River and all the Korathi children who would die if the Vesh won. She thought of Earth, of the blue sky and the green grass and the people who lived there, good and bad, kind and cruel, all of them human. Maya said yes. The war room was deep underground, in a bunker that had been built to survive nuclear attack. Screens covered the walls, showing images from satellites and scout ships. Officers from a dozen countries sat at long tables, next to Korathi military leaders who looked like nothing from Earth. Maya stood at the center of it all. She wore a headset that let her hear both human and Korathi voices at the same time. Her job was simple to explain and impossible to do. She had to take every order, every report, every question, and translate it instantly for both sides. The first battles were disasters. The Vesh were faster and stronger than anyone had expected. They swept through the outer defenses like fire through dry grass. Thousands died in hours. Ships that humans had spent years building were turned to ash in seconds. Maya felt each death like a blow to her heart. She had sent those soldiers to fight. She had translated the orders that put them in harm's way. Their blood was on her hands, even though she had never pulled a trigger. But she could not stop. The Vesh did not pause to mourn. They kept coming, wave after wave, ship after ship. The only way to honor the dead was to keep fighting for the living. Maya began to learn things about war that no book could teach. She learned that speed was more important than strength. She learned that surprise was the best weapon. She learned that soldiers who trusted each other fought better than soldiers who did not. Most importantly, she learned that humans and Korathi thought differently in battle. Humans were bold and aggressive. They liked to attack, to push forward, to take risks. Korathi were careful and patient. They liked to wait, to defend, to let the enemy make mistakes. At first, this difference caused problems. Human commanders got frustrated with Korathi caution. Korathi commanders got angry at human recklessness. Both sides blamed each other for defeats. Maya saw what was happening. She saw that neither side was wrong. They were just different, and if she could find a way to combine their strengths, they might have a chance. She spent 3 days without sleep, working on a new strategy. She talked to human generals and Korathi war masters. She studied old battles from both species. She looked for patterns, for ways to make the pieces fit together. Finally, she found it. The answer was simple: so simple that no one had thought of it before. Instead of trying to make humans fight like Korathi or Korathi fight like humans, they would do both at the same time. The plan was called the double wave. Korathi ships would form a defensive line, drawing the Vesh in with their patience. Then, when the Vesh were committed to the attack, human ships would strike from the sides with all their bold aggression. The enemy would be caught between two different styles of fighting, unable to adapt to both. Many commanders doubted the plan. It required perfect timing and total trust between species. If either side moved too soon or too late, the whole thing would fall apart. But Maya believed in it, and because she believed, others began to believe too. The double wave was approved. The battle took place near Mars. The Vesh had gathered their largest fleet, planning to crush the human Korathi alliance once and for all. Thousands of ships filled the space between the planets, more than anyone had ever seen in one place. Maya was in the command center, translating orders as fast as she could speak. Her voice was hoarse and her hands shook, but she did not stop. The fate of two worlds hung on every word she said. The Korathi line held. The Vesh pressed forward, sensing weakness, eager for the kill. They did not see the human ships waiting in the shadow of Mars, engines cold, weapons ready. Maya gave the signal. She spoke one word in Korathi and one word in English, at the exact same moment, with the exact same meaning. Now, the human fleet attacked. The Korathi line pushed back. The Vesh were caught in the middle, surrounded, confused. For the first time in the war, they began to retreat. The battle lasted for 12 hours. When it was over, half the Vesh fleet was destroyed. The rest fled into deep space, leaving their dead behind. It was not the end of the war, but it was the beginning of the end. The Vesh had learned that they could be beaten. Humans and Korathi had learned that they could win, and Maya had learned that she was stronger than she had ever imagined. The war lasted 2 more years after the Battle of Mars. There were more victories and more defeats. More ships were built and more ships were lost. More soldiers died, human and Korathi both, their bodies scattered among the stars. Maya stayed in the war room through it all. She translated 1,000,000 messages. She resolved 1,000 arguments. She kept the alliance together when it threatened to fall apart, which happened more often than anyone admitted. The hardest part was not the work. It was the waiting. Every time a battle began, Maya had to wait and watch while others fought and died. She could not pick up a weapon and join them. She could not fly a ship or fire a cannon. All she could do was talk, and sometimes talking felt like nothing at all. But Singing River reminded her of something important. He told her that in Korathi culture, the speaker was more honored than the warrior. Anyone could fight. Only a few could make others understand. Maya's gift was rare and precious. It was worth more than any weapon. Maya tried to believe him. Some days she succeeded. Other days, when the death counts came in and the screens showed burning ships, she felt like a fraud. The turning point came in the 3rd year of the war. Vesh scouts had found Earth's exact position. A massive fleet was gathering to attack the planet directly. If they succeeded, humanity would end. There would be no second chance, no retreat, no surrender. The Allied commanders met to plan the defense. They argued for days about strategy and tactics. Some wanted to attack first. Some wanted to wait and defend. Some wanted to negotiate, to offer the Vesh something in exchange for peace. Maya listened to all of them. She translated every word, every shout, every whisper. And as she listened, she began to have an idea. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It might get everyone killed. But it was the only chance they had. The Vesh were conquerors, but they were not stupid. They had been watching humans and Korathi fight. They knew how the alliance worked. They knew about Maya, the girl who made 2 species speak with one voice. What if Maya could do something they did not expect? What if she could speak to them, not as an enemy, but as something else entirely? The Vesh had their own language, of course. It was different from Korathi, different from human speech. No one had ever tried to learn it because the Vesh killed anyone who got close enough to study. But the Korathi had fragments, old recordings from their first encounters with the Vesh centuries ago, broken transmissions captured during battles. It was not much, but it was something. Maya asked Singing River to bring her everything they had. She locked herself in her room for 2 weeks, sleeping only when her body forced her to. She studied the Vesh sounds until her head ached and her eyes burned. She looked for patterns, for meaning, for anything she could use. And slowly, painfully, she began to understand. The Vesh were not evil, they were afraid. Their species was dying. Some sickness was spreading through their worlds, killing their young, making their old grow weak. They attacked other species because they believed conquest was the only way to survive. They took new planets and new slaves, hopping to find a cure that would save their people. They had never found one. In all their centuries of war, they had never found a single species that could help them. So they kept fighting, kept conquering, kept dying. Maya wept when she understood this. The Vesh were monsters, yes. They had killed millions. But they were also children, frightened and alone, lashing out at a universe that seemed cruel and uncaring. She went to the Allied commanders with her discovery. She told them about the Vesh sickness. She told them that humans might be able to help if the Vesh would let them try. Most of the commanders thought she was insane. Why would they help the enemy that had killed so many of their people? Why would they offer mercy to those who had shown no mercy? But some understood. Singing River understood. Dr. Roberts understood. They knew that the cycle of war would never end unless someone was brave enough to break it. A message was sent to the Vesh fleet. Maya wrote it herself in their language with their words. It was short and simple. It said that humanity knew about the sickness. It said that humanity wanted to help. It asked for a meeting, face to face, weapon to weapon, word to word. The Vesh did not respond for 3 days. The Allied fleet waited, ready for battle. Everyone expected an attack. Everyone expected death. Then the Vesh answered. One word in their harsh language that Maya translated for both species. Yes. The meeting took place on a dead moon between the stars. Maya went alone, against the wishes of everyone who cared about her. She said that the Vesh would not trust a delegation. They would only trust one person, speaking from the heart, with no weapons and no lies. The Vesh leader was called the Hollow, a title rather than a name. He was old for his kind, scarred by centuries of war. His body was failing, and Maya could see the sickness in him, the same sickness that was killing his species. They talked for hours. Maya spoke in Vesh, halting at first but growing more confident. She told the Hollow about her life, about her parents, about how she had learned to speak to those who seemed impossible to understand. She told him about humanity, about their faults and their virtues, about their endless capacity to surprise. The Hollow listened. He did not interrupt. When Maya finished, he was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke, and his voice was tired and sad. He told her about the Vesh sickness. It had started long ago, before his grandfather's grandfather was born. They had searched the galaxy for a cure. They had conquered 100 worlds. They had studied 1,000 species. Nothing had worked. The Hollow did not believe that humans could help where everyone else had failed. But he was tired of war. His people were tired. They had been fighting for so long that they had forgotten how to do anything else. Maya made him a promise. She said that humanity would try its best to find a cure. She could not guarantee success. No one could. But she could guarantee effort, honesty, and good faith. If the Vesh stopped their attack, humans and Korathi would work together to help them. The Hollow asked why. Why would humanity help those who had killed so many of them? What did they want in return? Maya thought about this for a long moment. Then she gave her answer. She said that humans helped because it was the right thing to do. They did not always do the right thing. Sometimes they were selfish, cruel, and stupid. But at their best, they reached out to those in pain and tried to heal them. It was what made them human. The Hollow stared at her with his alien eyes. Maya did not know what he was thinking. She did not know if he would accept or refuse. She only knew that she had spoken the truth, and the truth was all she had. After a long silence, the Hollow lowered his head. In Vesh culture, this meant surrender, but it also meant trust. The war ended that day. It did not end with a battle or a victory. It ended with a conversation between two people who chose to understand each other instead of fight. The years that followed were difficult. Finding a cure for the Vesh sickness took decades. Many scientists worked on the problem, human and Korathi, and eventually Vesh as well. There were setbacks and failures and moments when everyone wanted to give up. But they did not give up, and in the end they succeeded. The cure was found in the most unlikely place, in a small plant that grew only on Earth, in the wheat fields of Nebraska. The same fields where the first Korathi ship had crashed all those years ago. Maya was 50 years old when the cure was announced. She had spent her whole life in service to others, speaking for those who could not speak for themselves. She had saved countless lives, human and Korathi and Vesh. She had changed the course of history with nothing but words. On the day the cure was announced, all three species gathered to celebrate. The ceremony was held on Earth in Nebraska, near the site of the old crash. Maya stood before the crowd, an old woman now, gray-haired and tired but still standing straight. She spoke in 3 languages at once, switching between them so smoothly that it seemed like one voice speaking 3 ways. She told the story of her life, of the little orphan girl who had learned to read symbols she should not have understood. She spoke of her parents who had given their lives for the dream of understanding. She spoke of Singing River, who had taught her that kindness crosses all boundaries. She spoke of Dr. Roberts, who had believed in her when no one else would. And she spoke of humanity. She said that humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the smartest or the most advanced, but they had one gift that no other species shared. Humans refused to give up. When they faced a problem, they kept trying until they solved it. When they met someone different, they learned to understand them. When they saw suffering, they tried to heal it. They made mistakes. They caused pain, but they also grew and changed and became better. That was what Maya had learned in her long life. That was the lesson she wanted to share. Intelligence was not just about solving puzzles or learning languages. True intelligence was about understanding others, feeling their pain and working to make things better. It was about choosing hope over fear, love over hate, peace over war. Maya finished her speech and looked out at the crowd. Human faces, Korathi faces, Vesh faces, all different but all listening, all understanding, all together. She thought of her parents, somewhere among the stars, watching over her. She hoped they were proud. The orphan child had deciphered alien scripts. Her intelligence had saved countless lives, but more than that, she had proven something about the human spirit. Given the chance, humans could rise above their fear and anger. They could reach out to those who were different. They could find common ground with anyone, no matter how strange or frightening. That was humanity's greatest strength. That was what made them worthy of the stars. Maya smiled as the crowd cheered. 3 species, 3 languages, 1 voice. The orphan girl from Nebraska had come a long way, and the journey was just beginning.